Hey everybody, how's it going? Earlier today I sat down over there with a cup of coffee and recorded some of my thoughts on training. Right now I'm about to go out for my second session, which is 8 20-second sprints. I'm going to leave you with those thoughts, and then later on you can join me on the ride, and I'm going to tell you hopefully how you can get a little bit extra sprint power from your sprint sessions with just a few simple tips. See you in a bit. And also some really good news for anyone that has been after the Imperial kit. It is now finally in our online store, so if you're looking for some, go and have a look. So I've managed to sit myself down with a cup of coffee because I am about to go out training for the second session of the day. This morning I did a bit of a gym session just over there to my right shoulder, which included squats, jumps, planks, loads of core work, press-ups and that sort of thing. It's about an hour-long session, and the whole idea behind that is to help increase my explosive power, something which I've never really worked on that much off the bike in the past. Not at all, really, if I'm really honest. And because we've got this little extra gift of time, which is the positive spin I'm putting on coronavirus, it means that actually now is a really good time for me to start working on things like that. And that comes off the advice of my coach. So my coach, which a lot of you probably aren't aware, isn't myself. I do not coach myself. That's because I really enjoy the accountability from having someone else coach me. But equally, I actually like the new ideas that someone brings to my training programs. If it was me, I'd just be doing the same old stuff that I was doing 8 or 10 years ago. Maybe in a different way. My weaknesses and strengths are different these days. But I really like the fresh approach that I have from Stefan Mastella. Now, Stefan is a young Austrian track cyclist himself. He was in the Olympic qualifying process. When I first met him, actually, I've never actually met him in person. We've met over the phone. I've met the company that he works for before. That's Spokes Fit. I'll try and find I don't know if I know how to do a screen flow, but I'll give it a go so you can see the people that I'm talking about the whole time. I started being coached by Stefan way back in October last year, and things were immediately quite different. At the time, quite hard to train around work. I was having to leave to get to work at 7:30 in the morning, and it's rare that I'd get home before 7 in the evening. So I either had to train on my commute, which I could do by bike, it's 25 miles each way, or I could do shorter sessions and do more of them, so 2 or 3 times a day if I really needed to. And that actually worked really well. So that was the biggest change in my training from what I'd done in the past. I was always someone that just preferred going out once, doing my work, getting it done, and then coming home. But actually, through Stefan's help and his inventive and creative training sessions, I actually really enjoyed doing 2 sessions in any given day. And that really helped break things up. It broke up the monotony of just riding to and fro work. Because actually, when you do the same ride all the time, it's not that interesting. But when you've got someone giving you intervals, which you know are specific towards your goals, it makes it a lot easier to manage. So my winter's training was quite different to what I've done in the past. I had 5 days a week where I was working full time, and I was still going on these trips at the weekend. And that made it quite challenging. So I started training and doing lots of different things. I had a lot of posture corrective exercises to do. So from definitely slouching in an office chair for the last 18 months or so. I needed to strengthen and lengthen my hamstrings, my back, my shoulders, everything needed to be opened back up. Hip flexors, they get really tight when you're sat at an office desk a lot of the time. And they were areas that I paid particular attention to. But then also my cardiovascular system. I didn't let myself go completely last year. I still rode my bike a little bit. I always aimed for around 7 hours a week, 7 to 10 hours a week. I'd be really happy. But there was a lot of work to do, and it was quite hard actually, and I don't think I could have done it in the same way I did it in the past. I think the fact that I had these new and exciting training sessions to do every single day really helped. And I think one of the most important things that an athlete or a coach needs to remember is that training should still be exciting. Someone should still look forward to going out on their bike. Yeah, there's always going to be a time where you need to do this block of work, this period of work, but there's no reason why that shouldn't be exciting. So November and December were fairly chilled out. They weren't too crazy. As I mentioned before, there were the corrective exercises and a little bit of cross training, the running, the 10k runs and things like that. Into January, February and March, and that was the time to start ramping things up. And it definitely became more challenging. You know, there's always going to be a compromise on time somewhere when you're trying to train that little bit more. But it went really well. And I have to say that I was genuinely in the best shape. No, I was absolutely in the best shape of my life at that time of the year, because I was motivated. I was returning to something which I knew was going to bring me a lot of happiness. I had very different coaching and training, which was also exciting, which kept the motivation high. And I was just on this crest of training morale, because when you know you're fit and you know you're achieving your goals, it just gives you this massive boost, and it was just really enjoyable, coupled with the fact that I was just really enjoying riding my bike. Obviously, coronavirus slowly started creeping into the world, and it all became that little bit more uncertain. And that's when it starts to get harder. It's because when your goals are no longer that defined, as someone who's very goal-focused and oriented, it then becomes a real challenge to maintain your motivation. I did manage to set my 1-minute PB, which I've been chasing for about 7 years, so I was really pleased with that. Finally cracked the 900 watt barrier for 60 seconds. I am quite heavy. I was 76 kilos at the time, but nonetheless, I was really pleased with it. I felt like I could go out and equal any previous PB that I'd ever set. You know, you just get this feeling in your legs as an athlete, as a cycling athlete, and you know how you are compared to how you were before in the past. I started training with teammates from in the past and using them as a bit of a gauge, a bit of a marker to see how I was going, and it all just builds this boost and this confidence before you return to racing. Obviously now we're in this bit of a limbo, so how are we all approaching training right now? Well, I'm sure we're all doing it quite differently. You see a lot of guys racing online and really enjoying esports. That's not really my thing. I like being outside. So I took a few weeks off, really, you know, piled on a little bit of weight. I'm not embarrassed to say I'm still quite a few kilos heavier than I was, but that's fine because we're going to have enough notice when we return to racing that I'll be able to be back in exactly the same shape as I was before. But I think that's really important. If you were to live too strictly throughout this lockdown period, you're simply going to burn yourself out. You could go in all guns blazing at the start and, you know, use this as a period to build. But I think actually taking a more maintenance approach is the key to it. And that's what I've done with Stefan and with Spokes is we've not rushed anything too much. There's still developmental work there, but there's no massive overload. So it's not like I'm spending 25 hours a week on the bike. I'm spending around 12 hours a week training, 12 to 16 hours a week training, a little bit more in the coming weeks as I do need to ramp up a little bit, but it's not crazy. I have blasted through my coffee, it's all gone. Not only do you need to trust your coach, you really need to buy into the sort of sessions that they're setting you because you're going to spend a lot of your time committing to them. And we all know that training is pretty painful. If you're doing these efforts and there's even this slight element of doubt in the back of your mind that, is this really the best thing for me? You're never really going to get the best out of yourself. And that's probably the main reason why I enjoy working with Stefan and working with Spokes. It's simply, I really do trust the training. It's really enjoyable because it is so different to what I've done before. And it just feels right. I think I mentioned at some point before that the whole point of all of these videos was just to bring attention to the people that are helping support me on my quest back into racing. So I want to say a massive thank you to Spokes and to Stefan for helping provide me with the coaching and get me back to a level where I felt I was going to be really competitive. Time will tell if that's the case, but I'm fairly confident, you know. As much as my bathroom scales lie, my power meter doesn't. So, sprint power increase. How do we do it? Simply, rule number one. Very tight shoes. Tighten your shoes up basically as much as they can. They're going to be the weak link in all of this. And then you want to think about your gearing. So power is simply torque, so force, multiplied by revs per minute. Imagine you can put out 150 newton meters of torque, but you can only do it at 60 RPM. That's going to be around 984 watts. But if you can double the RPM that you can exert that torque, so 120, that will increase your power, assuming you can create the same force. That will increase your power up to 1884 watts, or 1880. So that's really important, gearing. Don't start in a big heavy gear because simply you won't have the leg speed to create a high power output. So think about your gearing, really tight shoes, good position on the bike. Don't need to go crazy with positioning on the bike. Just feel safe, secure, powerful. And then also you're going to want a nice open stretch of road ahead of you. So that's what I'm waiting for right now. I was looking at my watch then to see what time the next sprint's going to start. I know for a fact there's a little kink in the road just up here. I'll make sure everything in my pockets is secure. My legs are fresh. I've done one sprint as a warm-up. It's quite rare to get your peak power on the first sprint. And that's mainly because of muscle activation. It simply takes a little bit of time to wake up your muscles. I'm rolling into this sprint. Let's check the speed, it's not very fast. About 32 k's an hour. For some reason I can't even see it there. Right, the road's about to open up. So I'm going to find the gearing. If you want to have a high power output, fast legs on a fast bit of road, maybe around a corner or something. If you want to have a long high average, you probably want to accelerate into a climb. Right, in 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1. Oh, there we go. And loosen your shoes. As I was saying, for those high peak power outbursts, maybe out of a free-wheel corner, that's a good time to do a sprint. You're going to get that acceleration onto the pedals, that real snap, that explosiveness that you're really looking for. That'll really help you get the peak numbers. But if you want to go for a high average, say a high 20-second average, then actually going down a little mini dip and into a slight incline is going to help you even more, because it's hard to maintain a good power output with a high cadence. Whereas if you're doing it into what I call a dying cadence, so a cadence that isn't necessarily getting any slower, but it's not increasing either, you're at danger of being bogged down by the gear if you don't maintain that sort of power output. But that's a really good way to get a really high 10, 15, 30 second, even 60 second power output. Technically you're no longer in a sprint then, but it still counts as a good way of increasing your average. So that's how to sort of cheat, not necessarily cheat exactly, but how to artificially inflate your sprint power numbers. These won't necessarily help you win a bike race, but they are what I call vanity sprints, and looking at high average numbers on your training data will definitely bring a smile to your face. If you want to go fast, simply high cadence, aerodynamic speed, and repeat. Lots of practice. Practice makes perfect with anything. If you want to win a sprint in a race, then it's all about positioning. Right, that's it from me for today. I have left myself feeling a little bit worse for wear after those 8 20-second sprints. Thank you so much for your incredibly positive response. I love reading your comments and replying to them. Please do continue to subscribe and share this video. Let other people know that I'm making these uploads. Not only does it make a huge difference to me personally, also us at the team, and it's just a great motivator to continue doing this. Hope you're all staying safe, hope you're all staying well, and I'll hopefully see you again soon.